Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. When the biting wind of December 1972 cut against my face, my fingertips still remembered the bone-deep chill from the blood I had combed from my hair before dying in my last life. I clutched the freshly issued meat and supply coupons from the commune, feeling the warmth of my palms soften them. The stiff edges began to curl with the heat. The hatred boiling in my chest felt just as tangible as that piece of paper. In my previous life, Michael Carter had handed over the same kind of coupon to Laura Brown without saying a word, and I foolishly thought he was simply being soft-hearted. It wasn't until later, after his car accident, when he needed a blood transfusion, that I realized how wrong I had been. He pinned me down and drew 300 cubic centimeters of my blood. Later, I saw him give all the Army-issued blood replenishing and sugar supplements, not to me, his wife, but to that poor widowed sister-in-law he claimed to pity so much. When I pushed open the door, a wave of icy air hit my face, making me shiver. The fire in the stove had long gone out. This time, unlike in my past life, I didn't rush to rekindle it. Instead, I walked straight to the rice jar, placed the meat coupon into a wooden box, and locked it securely. If I tucked it inside my cotton coat pocket, someone might find a way to take it again. But this time, no one was going to steal what belonged to my son and me. Just as I finished, the sound of a bicycle bell echoed from the courtyard. Michael Carter, in his army green officer's uniform, stood out sharply against the gray haze of the family compound. "Leanne, where's the hot water? I've been out all day. My throat's burning," he said as he stepped inside carrying his canvas bag. His tone was full of entitlement, as if I had been born to serve him. I handed him the warm water I had prepared earlier and glanced at his limp, nearly empty canvas bag. In my past life I had never noticed. Every time he came back from Laura's house, that bag was always this light. After he finished drinking, I asked casually, "Michael, on your way home, you didn't happen to see the meat coupon near the rice jar, did you? I just got it from the commune office and haven't had time to put it away yet." His hand paused slightly around the ceramic cup. His eyelids lowered. "Oh, that coupon. I gave it to Laura. She's raising 2 kids on her own. It's freezing out and she hasn't had a bite of meat in weeks. Poor woman. Poor woman." I almost laughed aloud. In my previous life, I had been deceived by those same words for 3 long years. I didn't learn until just before I died that Laura's widow's pension was higher than our entire household's living expenses. All that pity was nothing but an act she put on for Michael. I turned, pulled out a brand new notebook from the cabinet, and opened it to the first page. Written clearly in ink were the entries. October 5, 1972. Michael Carter gave Laura Brown food coupons and supplies. October 20th, 3 feet of fabric coupons. November 8th, 1 gold postal voucher. Each note was something I had written down based on the memories from my previous life, complete with the corresponding commune record numbers. Take a look for yourself. I slapped the notebook down in front of him. "In just 3 months, what you've given Laura could feed our family for 2. Our child's coat elbows are worn through, and you said you'd get fabric to make me a new shirt. I haven't even seen the coupons. But Laura, she's walking around the compound flaunting a brand new synthetic silk dress you gave her." Michael's face darkened as he glanced at the notebook. "Why are you making such a fuss? You've been spying on me now, Lillian. I'm a regimental officer. Helping the family of a fallen comrade is my duty. Don't be unreasonable." "Unreasonable?" My voice rose despite myself. "Look at our child's clothes. Ask him when he last had a piece of meat." The words nearly slipped out, the same words I had cried out in my previous life. But I stopped myself. I almost forgot. It was still 1972. I had been reborn, and only I remembered the pain that came before. I took a deep breath, forcing down the turmoil in my chest. "Then go and get that meat coupon back today. Otherwise, don't bother coming home again." "I'm not going," Michael snapped, standing abruptly. The porcelain cup slammed onto the table with a heavy thud. "I already gave it away. There's no reason to take it back. Lillian, poverty has made you petty. If you keep making trouble, I'll move back to the barracks and won't come home anymore." He grabbed his canvas bag and stormed out, slamming the door so hard that dust fell from the ceiling. The wind howled through the cracks, but I didn't feel cold at all. In my previous life, after he stormed out like that, I had cried all night thinking about how to make peace, how to take a step back. But this time I only felt relief. I walked to the bottom shelf of the cabinet and pulled out that small red blood donation certificate. The bold red letters type AB on the certificate stabbed at my eyes. In my past life, that very blood type had sealed my fate. When Michael Carter was in a car accident, the military hospital doctor surrounded me, urging that only my blood could save him. He lay on the hospital bed, pale and weak, whispering, "Lillian, please help me." My heart softened and I agreed to donate blood. And what happened afterward? The moment he recovered, he went right back to Laura Brown's house every single day without even a word of thanks. I shoved the blood donation certificate into the inner pocket of my cotton coat, gripping it so tightly that my knuckles turned white. In this life, I would never make the same mistake again. If Michael wanted to play the hero, if he wanted to protect that widowed woman, then let them destroy themselves together. I wasn't going to be their stepping stone anymore. Everything he owed me and our child, I would take back piece by piece with interest. The morning after Michael slammed the door and left, I bundled my son tightly in his cotton jacket and brought him next door to Mrs. Jang. "Mrs. Jang, I have to go to the commune to take care of some things today. Could you please watch him for a while? I'll come pick him up at noon for lunch." Mrs. Jang agreed cheerfully and even tucked a piece of roasted sweet potato into my boy's hands. His face lit up, eyes squinting with joy as he clutched it. Just as I stepped out of Mrs. Jang's yard, I heard that familiar whiny sobbing voice echoing from my own doorway. Laura Brown. In my previous life, it was this very day that she came, pretending her child didn't have a winter coat, begging for fabric coupons. I had fallen for her tears then, softened by her pitiful act, and gave her the coupons without hesitation. Later, I saw her parading around the compound in a brand new floral cotton jacket, made from those very coupons. This time I didn't rush to open the door. Instead, I went back inside and took out 2 documents from the cabinet. One was the pair of fabric coupons the commune had just distributed, and the other was a receipt from the supply shop showing that Michael had given Laura 3 feet of fabric coupons a few days ago. In my last life, I hadn't paid attention to these things, but after being reborn, I had made a point of retrieving that record from the shop. I tucked both papers into my coat pocket and strolled leisurely back to my doorway. Just as I expected, Laura was standing there wearing the synthetic silk blouse Michael had given her recently. She held her younger son's hand. He was bundled up in a thick, well-made cotton jacket, the collar embroidered with little flowers. He didn't look the slightest bit like a child in need. The moment Laura saw me, tears streamed down her cheeks like broken beads on a string. "Lillian, thank goodness you're home," she wailed. "Please help me. It's freezing, and my older boy's winter coat is so torn it can't be worn anymore. If this keeps up, he'll get sick. You just got your fabric coupons. Give me a little, please. Help the child." As she spoke, she pushed her little boy forward. The boy stumbled, dropping the candy he'd been holding. His lips trembled as if he were about to cry, but one sharp glare from her made him swallow his tears and crouch down quickly to pick up the candy from the dirt. I watched this all too familiar act unfold, but this time I felt nothing. No pity, no softness. Instead, I smiled. "Laura," I said evenly, "didn't Michael just give you new fabric last month to make your son a coat?" I remember it clearly. It was corduroy, the most fashionable kind right now. Thick and warm, too. How could it already be so torn you can't fix it? Her sobbing faltered. Her eyes darted nervously as she stammered. "That coat got burned last night when I was tending the stove. There's a big hole. No way to repair it. Lillian, I know you're kind-hearted. Just give me a bit of fabric. 1 yard, even half. When spring comes and I save up more coupons, I'll pay you back." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the receipt, holding it out in front of her. "Laura, before you ask for more, why don't you explain this? Michael gave you 3 yards of fabric coupons last month, and you haven't paid them back yet. Look here. The date, the quantity, and the shop stamp are all clearly written. If you're denying it, we can go to the commune supply store right now and ask the shopkeeper to confirm." Laura's face went pale the moment she saw the bright red stamp on the receipt. She reached out to snatch it from my hands, but I had already stepped back out of reach. Just then, Mrs. Jang came out of her yard carrying a basin of vegetables to dump the water. Seeing the small crowd gathering at my doorway, she walked over curiously. "What's going on here?" she asked. "Laura, why are you crying so early in the morning?" Laura quickly wiped her tears and forced a trembling smile. Laura tried to speak first, her voice trembling just enough to sound pitiful. "Mrs. Zhang, I just wanted to borrow a few fabric coupons from Lillian to make a winter coat for my child. He's been shivering from the cold, but she refuses to help me. And now she's even waving papers in my face." "Laura, that's not how it happened," I interrupted before she could twist the story further. I took the fabric coupon receipt from my pocket and handed it to Mrs. Zhang. "Please take a look. This is the official receipt from last month when Michael gave Laura 3 feet of fabric coupons. That's more than enough to make a thick cotton coat. It's only been a month, and now she's claiming her child doesn't have a coat again. And just yesterday, Michael gave her our family's entire month's worth of meat coupons too. Tell me, does that sound like borrowing? She's been treating everything from our home as if it were hers." Mrs. Zhang took the receipt, examined the red stamp carefully, then glanced from Laura's synthetic silk blouse to her son's embroidered cotton jacket. Her brows knitted tightly. "Laura, this isn't right," she said sternly. "Michael helping you is one thing, but you can't keep taking advantage of Lillian's household. She's raising a child alone. It's not easy. She's careful with every coupon just to get by. Look at yourself. You're wearing synthetic silk, and that's finer than the serge coat Lillian's wearing. You don't look like someone who's short on fabric coupons." The commotion had drawn attention. A few neighbors came out of their homes to watch. One woman from the back row whispered, "I saw Laura buying fruit candy at the supply store just yesterday. 2.5 cents a pound. If she were really that poor, where'd she get money for candy?" Another neighbor chimed in. "Exactly. Captain Carter is way too biased. His own kids' coat sleeves are worn through. Yet, he's out there buying fancy fabric for his widowed sister-in-law. If word gets around, people will start thinking Lillian's the stepmother in this house." Laura's face turned crimson, then pale. Her ears flushed red as the murmurs grew louder. She couldn't keep up the act any longer. She glared at me with pure hatred, grabbed her son's hand and stormed off, muttering under her breath, "You people don't understand. Michael gave it to me willingly. None of your business." Mrs. Zhang watched her leave, shaking her head. Then she turned to me with a sigh. "Lillian, you've always been too kind. You kept letting her get away with things. But from now on, if Michael dares to give away anything from your home again, don't you stay quiet." I smiled and nodded, slipping the coupons back into my pocket. "Thank you, Mrs. Zhang. I won't let it slide anymore. What belongs to our family should go to the people who truly deserve it." Back inside, I locked the 2 fabric coupons into the wooden box beside the rice jar. Then I opened my notebook and added a new entry. December 8, 1972. Laura Brown came asking for fabric coupons and was refused. As I set the pen down, memories from my previous life came flooding back. The last time Laura hadn't gotten her way, she'd gone straight to the army base to complain to Michael, claiming I'd been cruel to a poor widow and had bullied her child. Michael, without even asking for my side of the story, had come home furious. He'd shouted at me for an hour, then took all 10 eggs we had saved up and gave them to Laura, saying they were to nourish the boy. A cold laugh escaped me. I opened the cabinet and took out the basket of eggs, 10 of them, exactly the same number as before. I'd been saving them for 2 weeks, planning to make something nutritious for my son. I picked up the basket and carried it next door to Mrs. Zhang. "Thank you for watching my boy today," I said with a smile, handing her 5 of the eggs. "Please keep these and make some for Uncle Zhang to build his strength." Then I took out 2 more eggs and pressed them into my child's small hands. "Ask Grandma Zhang to boil these for you at lunchtime." I slipped the remaining 3 eggs into my pocket. At noon, I planned to buy a piece of malt candy from the commune store to go with the eggs for my boy. As for Michael Carter, if he wanted to pity Laura Brown and play the hero, he could figure that out on his own. I would never again let my son and me suffer for his so-called kindness. Never again would I let history repeat itself. When I returned from the commune at noon, I first stopped by Mrs. Zhang's to pick up my son. He was sitting on the Kong bed, happily eating a boiled egg, a smear of yolk at the corner of his mouth. When he saw me, he grinned, holding up half an egg. Mom, Grandma Zhang's eggs are so tasty. I patted his head fondly, handed him the malt candy I'd brought, and thanked Mrs. Zhang again before taking him home. We had barely stepped inside when I heard someone calling from the courtyard gate. Is Mrs. Carter home? It's old Master Li from the army cafeteria. He was holding a lunch pail in his hand. Comrade Lillian, he said. Captain Carter asked me to bring you your lunch. There are some steamed buns and pickled vegetables inside. I took the pail and lifted the lid. Sure enough, there were only 2 cold hard cornmeal buns and a small dish of pickles. It was exactly the same as in my previous life. Michael Carter always saved the special dishes from the army cafeteria for Laura Brown, while the meals for my son and me were always the plainest coarse grains. A bitter smile tugged at my lips, though I feigned confusion. Mr. Li, could you ask Captain Carter something for me? Didn't the cafeteria serve braised pork today? My boy's been craving it for days. Why didn't we get any? Old Mr. Li's face tightened with discomfort. He glanced around, then lowered his voice. To tell you the truth, Comrade Lillian, yes, the cafeteria did make braised pork today. It was a special dish for the officers. Captain Carter specifically told me to save a large portion. He said it was for Comrade Laura Brown. He told us you and your son could make do with coarse food so nothing would go to waste. The words were identical to what he'd told me in my past life. My grip tightened around the lunch pail until my knuckles went white, but I forced my voice to stay calm. Thank you for telling me, Mr. Li. You can head back now. I understand. He sighed, shaking his head as he walked away. After he left, I sat my son down at home, giving him the malt candy and one of the buns to eat. Then, taking the empty pail, I headed toward the army cafeteria. In my last life, when I learned the truth, I had hidden at home and cried for hours, too afraid to confront him. But this time was different. This time I wanted everyone to see exactly how Michael Carter could do on a widow, while neglecting his own wife and child. The cafeteria was right next to the family compound, not far at all. As I reached the entrance, I saw Michael coming out holding a gleaming aluminum lunchbox that was still steaming. I didn't need to guess what was inside. It was the braised pork. When he saw me, he froze for a second, panic flickering in his eyes. Lillian, what are you doing here? I came to ask you something. I stepped closer, my voice calm, but loud enough for the nearby soldiers to hear. The braised pork from the cafeteria. You sent it to Laura Brown, didn't you? What about us? My child's been dreaming about having some meat for half a month, and all you left for us were 2 cold corn buns. Michael's face darkened instantly. He grabbed my arm, trying to pull me aside. There are people around. Let's talk about this at home. I yanked my arm free and raised my voice. Why can't we talk about it here? You were bold enough to send the braised pork to Laura. Why are you afraid to admit it now? Mr. Li already told me everything. You asked him to save a big portion for Laura and said that my son and I could eat coarse food to avoid wasting resources. Tell me, Michael Carter, are you the husband and father of this family? Or are you Laura Brown's guardian angel? The nearby soldiers stopped what they were doing, forming a curious circle around us. Michael's face flushed a deep red. Lillian Carter, you're being ridiculous, he barked. Laura's raising her kids alone. What's wrong with me giving her a little meat? Can't you be more generous? Generous? I pulled out the notebook I'd been keeping, the one filled with every record of his kindness. Flipping it open, I held it up for the soldiers to see. Everyone, take a look. Over the past 3 months, here's what Captain Carter has given Laura Brown. 20 pounds of grain coupons, 12 feet of fabric coupons, 3 postal vouchers, and just yesterday he handed her our family's entire month of meat coupons. And now even the Army's special braised pork he's setting aside for her, while my son and I are left with cold buns. Is this what you call a good officer, a good husband and father? The soldiers exchanged looks, murmuring among themselves as they passed around the notebook. The whispers grew louder. I didn't think Captain Carter was that kind of man. He's showing way too much favoritism. Yeah, his own kid barely has meat to eat, but he keeps feeding that widow. Doesn't she get a widow's pension? Why is she still living off him? Michael's entire body trembled with anger. He lunged forward, trying to snatch the notebook from my hands, but an older soldier quickly stepped between us. Captain Carter, calm down first, the man said firmly. If what Comrade Lillian said is true, You really ought to reflect on your actions." Before Michael could respond, Mr. Lee, the cafeteria cook, came out, holding a sheet of paper. "Comrades, I have the cafeteria's meal log right here," he shouted, slightly out of breath. "It clearly shows that for the past half-month, Captain Carter has personally instructed me to send special dishes to Laura Brown: braised pork, stir-fried eggs, and other rations. Not once has it stopped." Michael looked at the ledger in Mr. Lee's hand, then at the disgusted, disappointed stares of the soldiers surrounding him. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I let out a cold laugh, pulled the 2 cold, hard corn buns from my pocket, and tossed them at his feet. "Michael Carter, my son and I won't eat these anymore. You can share them with your precious widow. From now on, whatever you want to eat or whoever you want to feed, it has nothing to do with us. And don't you ever step foot in our home again." Without waiting for his reply, I turned and walked away. Behind me, his angry, frantic shouts echoed through the courtyard, mixed with the murmurs of the soldiers. I didn't look back. There was only one thought in my mind. This was just the beginning. The money he owed me, the things he took from us, I would reclaim them all piece by piece. When I returned home from the cafeteria, my son was already asleep on the heated brick bed, clutching half a piece of malt candy in his tiny hand. I gently pried it free, tucked the blanket around him, and turned to sit at the table. Under the dim glow of the kerosene lamp, I began sorting through the evidence I had hidden for so long. From the very bottom of the wooden chest, I pulled out a stack of remittance receipts, proof of the money Michael had sent to Laura Brown. I spread them out carefully and started recording them in my notebook. September 15, 1972, 5 yuan. October 23, 1972, 8 yuan. November 30, 1972, 6 yuan. 3 months in total, 19 yuan. Michael's monthly salary was only 45 yuan. The money he sent to Laura amounted to nearly 17% of his income, while for our entire household, he gave me only 20 yuan each month. I had to scrimp even for coal money. I organized the receipts by date and added them neatly into my notebook. All of this, every yuan, was part of our marital property. In my past life, I hadn't understood that. I had thought he was being kind, helping a poor widow. Only when I filed for divorce later did I realize that money legally belonged to my son and me too. This time I wasn't just going to make him return it. I would make sure the entire army saw how he had used his salary to support a widow while neglecting his own family. As I continued sorting through the evidence, a faint sound came from outside the door. My heart skipped a beat. I quickly locked everything back into the wooden chest and hid it under the bed before stepping out into the courtyard. No one was there. Just the cold wind carrying a swirl of fallen leaves. I remembered how in my past life, after Michael had lost face at the cafeteria, he had come home that night and secretly searched through my belongings trying to find evidence that I was making trouble for him. Luckily, I had hidden my notebook in the stoveroom back then, so he hadn't found it. This time, I had taken extra precautions, placing the wooden chest under the bed and adding a small lock. I wasn't going to give him another chance. Back inside, I reached into the inner pocket of my cotton coat and pulled out a small note. The one that Zhao, the postal worker at the commune, had secretly slipped me yesterday. It read, November 1972. Captain Carter asked me to deliver 2 cans of powdered milk to Laura Brown, saying it was to strengthen her child's health. Zhao had also told me that the milk powder was a special supply from the army, something Michael hadn't even given to his own son. I pasted the note onto a blank page of my notebook, the corner of my mouth curling into a cold smile. So generous, I thought. He treats someone else's child better than his own. Once everything was in order, I thought of my older brother, William Lin, who worked as a commune official. He was upright and fair. In my previous life, every time I had suffered injustice, he was the one who stood up for me. I took out a sheet of letter paper and my fountain pen, then began to write. Brother, I can't live with Michael anymore. He's been giving our household coupons and money to his widowed sister-in-law, Laura Brown, while mistreating me and our child. I want to divorce him and I need your help. After finishing the letter, I folded it carefully, placed it into an envelope, and set it aside to have the commune's postman send it out first thing in the morning. Just as I was putting it away, a thought suddenly struck me. The marriage certificate and the savings. Our marriage certificate had gone missing when we moved. I had urged Michael Carter many times to get it reissued, but he always said he didn't have time. Now that I thought about it, he must have done it on purpose, afraid that once I had the certificate in hand, I'd use it to divorce him. I searched through every drawer, but couldn't find the marriage certificate anywhere. Strangely, instead of panic, I felt relief. That meant if he ever tried to use our marriage as a leash again, I could simply tell him we weren't legally registered as husband and wife. He'd have no argument left. I noted the matter about the marriage certificate in my notebook and drew a circle around it to remind myself to visit the Civil Affairs office at the commune the next day to confirm. By the time I finished, the sky outside the window had already turned pale gray. Stretching my arms, I walked to the bedside and looked at my sleeping son. His soft, peaceful face strengthened my resolve. For him and for myself, I had to end things with Michael completely. I would never again be that weak woman who let others trample all over her. The next morning, I handed the letter to the postman, then went to the Civil Affairs office to verify the marriage certificate issue. The staff confirmed that Michael Carter had never reapplied for one. As I walked out of the office, I felt a strange sense of peace settle in my chest. But as I reached the gate of the residential compound, I saw Mrs. Jang rushing toward me, her face pale with panic. "Lillian, something's happened. Captain Carter's in trouble." Her words hit me like a stone dropped into still water. For a brief moment my heart tightened, but almost immediately memories from my previous life surfaced, and I forced myself to stay calm. In my past life, it had been this very day when Michael drove Laura Brown to the county to buy fabric. On the way, he got into a car accident. He'd lost a lot of blood, and the army doctor said only someone with AB-type blood could save him. Surrounded by his pleading eyes and the persuasion of army leaders, I had foolishly donated my blood. In the end, he recovered and I was left in the cold, forgotten. Not this time. Never again. What happened? I asked, feigning composure, though my hand quietly slipped into the inner pocket of my cotton coat, gripping the blood donation certificate. "Car accident?" Mrs. Jang gasped, grabbing my arm as she hurried me toward the gate. He was driving Laura to the county, and his car collided with a coal truck halfway there. They've already taken him to the army hospital. I heard he's lost a lot of blood. They're calling for someone with AB-type blood. Just as I expected, exactly like before. I followed Mrs. Jang toward the hospital. Along the way, we passed several soldiers and family members rushing in the same direction, all whispering about Captain Carter's accident. When we reached the hospital entrance, I immediately spotted Laura Brown sitting on the steps, crying dramatically. Her hair was a mess. Her synthetic silk blouse was smeared with blood, but there wasn't a single wound on her. In my last life, I thought she'd been hurt too. Only later did I learn that the blood on her clothes had all been Michael's. She'd just gotten some on herself while sitting close to him. I walked up to her deliberately, raising my voice so the people nearby could hear. "Laura, how's Michael?" The moment she saw me, she wailed even louder and lunged forward to grab my hand. "Lillian, thank God you're here. Michael's dying. The doctor said only AB-type blood can save him. You're AB, right? Please, you have to help him." I took a step back, avoiding her grasp, my gaze cold and sharp. "You want me to save him? What about you? Aren't you the one he cares about most? Why don't you save him yourself?" The people nearby turned to look, murmuring among themselves. A flicker of panic crossed Laura's face. She wiped her tears quickly and stammered. I can't. The doctor said I'm anemic. If I donate blood, it could be dangerous. Lillian, please don't hesitate. Michael is your husband." "Husband?" I let out a short, humorless laugh, then pulled a folded document from my coat pocket. The proof I had just gotten that morning from the Civil Affairs office. I opened it and read aloud so everyone could hear. Certification from the Civil Affairs office. The marriage certificate of Michael Carter and Lillian Lynn was lost and has never been reissued. I turned to Laura, my voice calm but cutting. "Laura, you must have forgotten. Our marriage certificate was lost long ago and never replaced. By regulation, without a registered certificate, we're not officially husband and wife. Since he loves you so much, giving you everything good in his life, then now that he needs blood, why don't you be the one to save him?" The moment the words left my mouth, the emergency room door swung open. A doctor hurried out holding a blood donation form, and paused when he caught the tail end of what I'd said. Then he looked straight at me. "Are you Comrade Lillian Lynn?" he asked. "Captain Carter urgently needs AB-type blood. You're his family member. Please come with me to donate." He handed me the form. Michael's name and information were already filled in. Only my signature was missing. Just then, Michael Carter was wheeled out on a stretcher. His face was deathly pale, his lips cracked and dry. When he saw me, he weakly lifted his hand, his voice trembling. "Lillian, please help me. I can't die now." His pleading eyes were exactly the same as in my previous life. But this time I didn't waver. I glanced at the donation form, then tossed it onto the floor. "Doctor," I said evenly, "as I mentioned before, we were never legally married. I have no obligation to donate blood for him. Besides, he's never cared for me or our child. Everything good he's ever had, he's given to Laura Brown. If he needs help, he should ask her." "You can't be serious." Michael tried to sit up, but his body was too weak from blood loss. He fell back, gasping, his voice strained. "I'm the father of your child. How can you just stand there and watch me die?" "The father of my child?" I stepped closer to the stretcher and looked him directly in the eyes. My voice was cold and deliberate. "You still remember that you're his father? When you bought milk powder for Laura's child, did you ever think about how ours hadn't even tasted meat? When you gave her all our meat and fabric coupons, did you ever think about how our son was still wearing a patched-up cotton jacket? Now that you're the one bleeding out, suddenly you remember you're a father. Too late, Michael. Much too late." A ripple of whispers spread among the soldiers and families standing nearby. "Comrade Lillian's right," one soldier muttered. "Captain Carter's always been too partial to that widow." "Yeah," another added. "Laura just told me she was anemic, but I saw her carrying buckets of water yesterday. Didn't look sick to me." "That's true. If Captain goes on her so much, then let her donate the blood." Even the doctor turned to Laura Brown, frowning. "Comrade Laura, are you truly anemic? According to our hospital's records, your physical exam last month showed you were in excellent health. No signs of anemia whatsoever." Laura's face drained of color. The tears that had been flowing so easily just moments ago stopped altogether. She stammered, "I just feel dizzy sometimes. I'm afraid something might go wrong if I donate." "Dizzy?" someone in the crowd shouted. "But you can still carry water, can't you?" Laughter erupted around us. The way people looked at Laura now was filled with scorn and contempt. Unable to bear the humiliation, Laura covered her face and ran out of the hospital without looking back. Even as Michael weakly called her name, he watched her disappearing figure, then looked around at the disapproving stare surrounding him before turning his eyes back to my indifferent face. The next moment, his chest heaved and he passed out cold. The doctor and nurses quickly pushed the stretcher back into the emergency room. Before following them in, the doctor gave me a brief glance but didn't say another word, perhaps realizing that Michael Carter had brought this upon himself. I stood there at the hospital entrance, watching the doors swing shut again. There wasn't a trace of guilt in my heart. Just a few minutes after Laura fled, the emergency room light turned off. The doctor came out and announced that Michael was out of immediate danger but would still need close observation and possibly more blood later. I let out a quiet breath, not from relief for his sake, but because I knew the show wasn't over yet. In my past life, Laura had gone home right after the accident, only to return an hour later, pretending to be ill, claiming the scare had given her a sudden relapse. When Michael woke up, he'd been full of guilt and pity for her, sending her more supplements and comfort food. Not this time. I asked Mrs. Jang to head home and look after my son while I stayed behind in the hospital corridor. I didn't have to wait long. Half an hour later, 2 neighbors came rushing in carrying a makeshift stretcher. And lying on it, pale-faced, eyes closed, moaning weakly, was Laura Brown herself. My head, it's spinning. Laura Brown moaned weakly, her voice trembling. "I can't breathe." The 2 neighbors carrying her stretcher shouted as soon as they entered the hospital. "Doctor, please help Comrade Laura. She fainted. The car accident must have scared her half to death. And now she suddenly passed out." The doctor hurried forward, motioning to the nurses. "Bring her to the observation room quickly." I immediately stepped forward to block their way. "Wait, doctor. I suspect Comrade Laura isn't actually unconscious." Lying on the stretcher, Laura's eyelids twitched at my words, but she didn't dare open them. One of the neighbors frowned, clearly displeased. "Comrade Lillian, how can you say that? Can't you see she's fainted? How could you accuse her like this?" "I'm not accusing her," I said calmly. "I have proof." I turned and walked toward the nurse's station. And right there I spotted my distant cousin, Wendy, who worked as a nurse at this hospital in charge of organizing patient records. I took her by the arm and brought her back to the stretcher. "Doctor," I said, "this is Nurse Wendy. She has access to Laura Brown's medical records from last month. Please take a look." Wendy froze for a second, then quickly understood. She pulled a medical form from the file folder in her hand and passed it to the doctor. "Here," she said. "This is Comrade Laura Brown's physical exam report from the 20th of last month. It shows that all her indicators were normal. No anemia, no heart disease, no hypertension, nothing. She's in excellent health, perfectly capable of physical labor." The doctor examined the record carefully, then reached out and felt Laura's pulse. His frown deepened. "Comrade Laura, your pulse is steady and strong. This doesn't feel like someone who's fainted. If you're fine, please get up." On the stretcher, Laura's face flushed red, then drained white. Still, she stubbornly kept her eyes shut. I gave a cold laugh and leaned down beside her, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "Laura, if you don't get up right now, I'll tell everyone here what you were doing yesterday. Buying candy at the commune store and hauling water. And maybe I'll mention the little secrets between you and Michael Carter. How about that? Should I let everyone see what kind of woman you really are?" Her whole body stiffened. Then all at once she bolted upright, her eyes wide open. "I just felt a little dizzy earlier," she stammered, forcing a shaky smile. "I'm fine now, really. No need to trouble the doctor." The moment she sat up, everyone around her understood. "So she was faking it," someone exclaimed. "She just didn't want to donate blood." "Exactly. Captain Carter treated her so well, and this is how she repays him. She's nothing but an ungrateful fraud. Probably just using him for his money and supplies." The murmurs grew louder, the crowd's eyes full of disgust and mockery. Laura's face burned crimson. Unable to endure another second, she jumped off the stretcher, pushed through the onlookers, and ran toward the hospital exit faster than before without daring to look back. The two neighbors who had carried her stood frozen, embarrassed, not knowing what to say. The doctor watched Laura's retreating figure, then sighed and shook his head. "Comrade Lillian, you've been wronged. I didn't expect Captain Carter to be so foolish, to trust the wrong person." I gave him a faint smile but said nothing. It's not too late for him to see the truth, I thought. Everything Michael owes me, he'll pay it back sooner or later. After thanking Wendy, I turned to leave the hospital. But as I reached the entrance, Michael's orderly came running toward me, carrying a metal thermos container. "Mrs. Carter," he said respectfully, a little out of breath. "This is chicken soup from the Army cafeteria. Captain Carter just woke up. He asked me to bring it to you. He said, please don't be angry anymore. He knows he was wrong." I looked at the thermos and felt a cold laugh rise in my chest. In my previous life it had been exactly like this. He had sent me chicken soup, thinking a single bowl of warmth could wash away all the betrayal, all the hurt, and I had been foolish enough to forgive him. Not this time. I waved my hand dismissively. "Take the soup back. I don't need it. Tell him this. Things between us are far from over." I turned away right after speaking, leaving the orderly frozen where he stood. When I got home, my son was already awake, playing hopscotch in the courtyard with Mrs. Tsiong. The moment he saw me, he ran over and threw himself into my arms. "Mom, where did you go? I missed you so much." Warmth flooded my heart as I held him close and kissed his forehead. "Mom just had some things to take care of," I whispered. "From now on, I'll always be here with you." After putting him down for a nap, I heard footsteps and a few coughs outside the gate. When I opened the door, I saw Commissar Wang Jianghua from the regiment standing there, accompanied by two clerks carrying notebooks. I knew exactly why they were here. To investigate Michael Carter's car accident and the blood donation incident. They had come in my previous life too. But back then, I hadn't dared to show them any evidence, and the matter had quietly been buried. Not this time. I wasn't going to let Michael Carter get away with it so easily again. Comrade Lillian, Commissar Wong greeted politely as he stepped inside, his tone calm but official. Sorry to disturb you. We're here to learn about what happened the day of Captain Carter's car accident and the situation regarding the blood donation. Would you mind sharing what you know? I nodded, gesturing for them to sit at the table and poured them each a cup of hot water. Then I went to the wooden chest and brought out the notebook full of records along with the remittance receipts and the fabric coupon stubs, laying them neatly across the table. Commissar Wong, I said evenly, please take a look at these. You'll understand everything once you see them. He opened the notebook and began reading page by page. As he went on, his brow furrowed deeper and deeper. The two clerks beside him took notes quickly, occasionally glancing up at me with visible astonishment. 3 months 20-grain coupons, 12 feet of fabric coupons, 3 postal vouchers, and 19 yuan in remittances. Wong murmured aloud before setting the notebook down, his expression stern. Comrade Lillian, all this was given to Laura Brown by Captain Carter. I nodded. Yes, and there's more. The special dish is from the Army cafeteria, too. Michael gave Laura braised pork and stir-fried eggs every month without fail. You can ask Mr. Lee, the cook. He can confirm it. Meanwhile, my son and I only had coarse corn buns to eat. The child's jacket has been patched several times, and Michael never cared. Commissar Wong's face darkened even further. He was just about to speak when a familiar sobbing voice came from outside the courtyard. Laura Brown appeared, supporting Michael Carter by the arm as they slowly walked in. Michael's face was still pale, but he forced himself to stand straight. Commissar Wong, he began with a weak smile. Why are you here? Did someone say something bad about me? Michael Carter, you should stay quiet for now, Wong said sharply before turning his gaze on Laura. His tone grew colder. Comrade Laura Brown, I have a question. On the day of Captain Carter's accident, he urgently needed AB-type blood. The doctor confirmed your health was perfectly fine, yet you refused to donate and even lied about having anemia. Why? Laura's whole body trembled. She tried to hide behind Michael, her voice small and shaky. I was just scared. I've never donated blood before. I was afraid something might go wrong. Afraid. I let out a short cold laugh and took a note from my pocket, the one written by Xiao, the commune postal worker. I held it up for everyone to see. You were afraid to donate blood but not afraid to haul water or buy candy. Last month you even asked Zhao to deliver 2 cans of powdered milk for you. Said it was for your child's health. That powdered milk was an army special supply. Michael didn't even save a single can for our son, but you took it without hesitation. You've taken so much from him, yet when he needs help, you're the first to run away. And that's what you call being afraid. Laura's face went paper white. She opened her mouth but couldn't form a single word. Michael immediately stepped forward, shielding her behind him. Commissar Wong, this has nothing to do with Laura. I gave her those things willingly. As for the blood donation, it was my business, not hers. It has nothing to do with her, Michael Carter said quickly. William, stop holding on to this. We've been husband and wife for years. Can't you just forgive me? Husband and wife? I gave a sharp laugh and pulled a folded paper from my coat pocket, handing it to Commissar Wong. Commissar, please take a look. This is an official certification from the Commune Civil Affairs Office. Our marriage certificate was lost long ago, and Michael Carter has refused to reapply for it. According to the rules, without a valid certificate, we are not legally married. So, for him to talk about us being husband and wife now, it's far too late. Commissar Wong glanced at the document, his brows knitting together. Then he turned toward Michael, his expression turning stern. Captain Carter, why didn't you reissue your marriage certificate? Don't you realize this isn't just disrespectful to Comrade Lillian? It's also irresponsible toward your own marriage? You are a regimental staff officer, yet you failed to separate personal and professional boundaries, shown blatant favoritism toward Laura Brown, and neglected your wife and child. And now you're still trying to shield her. Your conduct issues are extremely serious. Michael's shoulders sagged, and he lowered his head, unable to say another word. Realizing he couldn't protect her any longer, Laura Brown panicked. Terrified of being held accountable, she suddenly dropped to her knees with a loud thud, bursting into tears. Commissar Wong, it's my fault. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have taken Captain Carter's things, and I shouldn't have lied about donating blood. Please forgive me. I'll never dare do it again. Wong looked down at her and shook his head slowly. Comrade Laura, your mistake isn't only about taking what wasn't yours or lying. You knowingly accepted special favors from a married man, disrupted another household, and damaged a soldier's family. This will be dealt with seriously. For now, return home and wait for further notice. Laura scrambled to her feet, too afraid to stay a second longer. She lowered her head and ran out of the house without looking back. Michael watched her leave, his expression conflicted and miserable, but he didn't defend her again. Perhaps even he finally understood that this time he had truly crossed the line. Commissar Wong stood, sighing heavily before turning to me. Comrade Lillian, I'm sorry for all the injustice you've suffered. The regiment will convene a meeting soon to decide on disciplinary action for Captain Carter. If you have any requests, please tell us. I met his gaze steadily. Commissar Wong, I have only one request. I want a divorce from Michael Carter, and I want him to return every coupon and every yuan he gave to Laura Brown over the past 3 months. That was our joint property. Wong nodded firmly. Understood. We'll take your request into consideration and get back to you as soon as possible. Then he left with his clerks. A couple of days after the commissar's visit, Mrs. Xiang knocked on my door carrying a cloth bundle in her arms. Inside were several folded slips of paper. Lillian, she said, handing it to me. I spent the past 2 days gathering statements from the neighbors. These are testimonies about what Michael Carter and Laura Brown have done. We're holding a community meeting this afternoon at the factory yard. Everyone will have a say in it. I took the bundle and carefully unfolded the papers. Each one was handwritten by different neighbors. One note from Auntie Lee said that last winter, Michael had given Laura the army-issued cotton quilt while his own child caught a cold from the cold nights. Another from Brother Xiao in the back row said that Michael once snatched a piece of malt candy from his son's hand only to give it to Laura's little boy moments later. In my previous life, I had heard such stories in passing but never thought much of them. Now, seeing them all gathered together, the pattern was undeniable. Michael's favoritism and Laura's greed were plain as day. Thank you, Mrs. Xiang, I said, grasping her hand tightly, my heart full of gratitude. In my last life I had stood alone, but this time I had neighbors who stood with me, and it was because I had finally stopped tolerating, finally dared to fight back. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, the open space in the compound was packed. Mothers with children, retired veterans, young soldiers just off training, all gathered to see what would unfold. Mrs. Zhang stood near the old stone mill in the center, cleared her throat and called out, "Everyone, quiet down for a moment. We're here today to talk about Captain Carter and Comrade Laura Brown. Lillian and her child have endured a lot these past few months. Let's lay everything out and let everyone judge for themselves." The moment she finished speaking, whispers began to ripple through the crowd. Mrs. Zhang raised the fabric coupon receipt and remittance stubs I'd given her earlier, holding them high for everyone to see. "Everyone, take a look at this," she called out. Over the past 3 months, Captain Carter gave Laura Brown 20 worth of grain coupons, 12 feet of fabric coupons, and 19 yuan in cash. Think about it. How many coupons do our families even get each month? Lillian's boys' coat is full of patches, and Captain Carter didn't lift a finger to help them. Instead, he gave everything to Laura. The moment she finished, the entire courtyard erupted. Auntie Lee squeezed her way to the front, pointing toward Laura's house. I knew something wasn't right. Last month I saw Laura wearing a new synthetic silk blouse. I thought she bought it herself. Turns out Captain Carter gave it to her. Meanwhile, Lillian's still wearing that old jacket from 2 years ago. How's that fair? Then Brother Jiao stepped forward, holding up a crumpled candy wrapper. My son got a piece of malt candy last month. Just one piece. Captain Carter snatched it right out of his hand and said it was for Laura's younger boy. My kid cried all afternoon, and he didn't even get an apology. One by one, the neighbors spoke up. Some said Michael Carter had given Laura all the soap and toothpaste that the army distributed. Others said Laura often spread gossip about me, calling me stingy and difficult. A few mentioned seeing her bragging at the commune store, showing off the things she'd gotten from Michael. Voices rose, accusations flew, and every dark detail of what those two had done came spilling out. The crowd's anger grew louder by the minute. Right then, Laura Brown appeared at the edge of the open yard carrying a vegetable basket. The moment she was spotted, someone shouted, "There she is! Laura's here. Let's ask her why she took so many things from Captain Carter, but refused to donate blood to save him." Her face went pale. She turned to run, but several women blocked her path. Flustered, she dropped the basket, potatoes rolling across the dirt. "I didn't mean to. I was just scared," she stammered, her hands trembling. Mrs. Tsiong bent down to pick up the fallen basket. "Scared of donating blood, huh? But you weren't scared to take what wasn't yours. Captain Carter gave you enough coupons and rations to feed your family for half a year. Don't you feel the least bit guilty?" Laura opened her mouth but couldn't answer. She covered her face and began to sob, but this time no one pitied her. A woman near the front threw a wilted cabbage leaf at her feet. "You still have the nerve to cry? Lillian and her son suffered 10 times more than you ever did." The crowd grew even more agitated. Some shouted for her to return everything she'd taken. Others said they'd never associate with her again. Seeing the fury around her, Laura pushed through the people and ran home, slamming the door shut behind her. She didn't even dare pick up the scattered potatoes. Not long after, Michael Carter returned from the hospital. As soon as he stepped into the compound, he heard the murmurs and saw the stares. His face went ghostly white. He lowered his head, trying to hurry home unnoticed, but a few veterans stepped in front of him. "Captain Carter," one of them said coldly, "why don't you tell everyone why you favored Laura so much? Don't you feel ashamed of how you treated Lillian and her boy?" Michael opened his mouth to explain, but more people surrounded him, demanding answers, their voices overlapping in anger and disappointment. Overwhelmed, he pushed through the crowd and ran home, slamming the door shut. He didn't even dare go to the regiment to collect the disciplinary notice that was surely coming. In the following days, no one spoke to Michael Carter or Laura Brown. When Laura went out to buy vegetables, people avoided her. The shopkeeper at the commune store refused to let her buy on credit. When Michael went to the cafeteria, the cooks only gave him plain, coarse food. No special dishes, no privileges. They became outcasts in the compound, avoided, whispered about, and pointed at wherever they went. Standing by my doorway, I watched Laura hurry home with her head down, her shoulders shaking. I felt no satisfaction, only a quiet sense of release. It wasn't revenge that drove me, it was simply justice. They had made their choices, and now they were facing the consequences. That night, as I held my son in my arms, he looked up at me with sleepy eyes and asked softly, "Mom, why doesn't anyone talk to Uncle Michael and Aunt Laura anymore?" I brushed his hair gently and said, "Because, sweetheart, they did something wrong. They need to understand that when you do something wrong, there are consequences." I told my son softly, "From now on we'll live our lives well and stay far away from them." He nodded sleepily, half understanding, half not. Then he nestled against me and drifted off to sleep. I looked out at the moonlight spilling across the windowsill and felt an unexpected calm settle over me. Public opinion was now on my side. Michael Carter and Laura Brown would never recover their reputations. All that was left was to wait for the Army's disciplinary decision, and for my divorce to go through. Michael stayed holed up in his house for 3 full days. When the Army's official notice of punishment arrived, he finally had no choice but to step outside. That afternoon, I was hanging quilts in the courtyard when I saw him walk past with his head down. The officer insignia on his shoulders was gone, his uniform replaced by a plain soldier's outfit. I didn't need to ask. I already knew he'd been demoted. Not long after, there was a knock on my door. I thought it was Mrs. Tsiong, but when I opened it, Michael was standing there instead, holding a small cloth bundle. A forced smile tugged at his lips. "Lillian," he said awkwardly, "I came to see you and the kid." I didn't let him in. Leaning against the door frame, I looked at him coolly. "What do you want?" "There's nothing left to say between us." His smile faltered. He held the bundle out toward me. "There are 2 pounds worth of meat coupons and a piece of fabric coupon in here. I pulled some strings at the regiment to get them for you and the boy. I know I was wrong before. I shouldn't have given everything to Laura or neglected you too. Please give me another chance, will you?" I glanced at the bundle in his hand. In my previous life he'd done this too. Every time he made a mistake, he'd try to make it right with a few coupons, and I, foolishly soft-hearted, forgave him again and again. All it ever brought me was more pain. I gave a cold, humorless laugh and pushed the bundle back toward him. Keep your coupons, Michael. My son and I don't need them. If you truly understand what you've done wrong, then you should know some things can't be undone. Once the hurt is caused, it can't be patched over. His face flushed red, his tone turning desperate. Lillian, I know I made terrible mistakes, but I've already been demoted. Laura's cut ties with me. She said she won't see me again. I swear from now on, I'll only care about you and our son. Please forgive me this once. Cut ties. I let out a short laugh. Funny you should say that. Mrs. Zhang told me yesterday that when Laura heard you'd been demoted, she started packing to return to her hometown. The neighbor stopped her, demanding she return all the things you gave her. She didn't cut ties because she's noble. She did it because you're no longer useful to her. Don't you see it yet, Michael? You were just her meal ticket. He froze, his eyes wide, as if unwilling to believe it. No, that's not true. Laura's not like that. She's scared, that's all. If you really think so, I said coldly, then go ask her yourself. I turned, went inside, and came back with a folded paper. I laid it down in front of him. I already told Commissar Wong I want a divorce. This is the application form. Sign it and we'll be done. You take your road and I'll take mine. From now on, we'll have nothing to do with each other. Michael stared at the divorce petition, his face draining of color. His hand shook as he reached for it. Then he tried to tear it up. I won't sign it. I won't divorce you, Lillian. We still have a child. You can't be this heartless. Heartless. I pressed his hand down firmly, my gaze unwavering. If I've become heartless, it's because you made me that way. When you gave all the meat coupons to Laura, did you think about your son going hungry? When you handed her the fabric coupons for new clothes, did you think about him shivering in a patched-up coat? When you needed a blood transfusion, did you think I was a person too? That I could hurt? That I could freeze from the inside out? Michael Carter, this marriage is over. Whether you sign or not, I'll have the army and the commune handle it. I'm done. Just then, a figure came running toward us from the path. Laura Brown, clutching a small notebook in her hand, rushed up to Michael, her face pale but furious. Michael, she cried. Give me back everything I gave you. It's all written down right here in my ledger. You gave me 20 worth of grain coupons, 12 feet of fabric coupons, 19 yuan in cash, and 2 cans of milk powder. Laura Brown shouted, her voice trembling with both fear and resentment. You'd better give them back to me right now, or I'll report you to the army. Michael Carter stared at her, then at the notebook in her hand, his face full of disbelief. Laura, how could you do this to me after everything I've done for you? I gave you so much, treated you so well, and now you want me to give it all back. Laura crossed her arms, her expression hard. You gave them willingly. I didn't steal anything, but now that you've been demoted, I want nothing to do with you. Return everything so people don't say I took advantage of you. Neighbors nearby had already heard the commotion and began gathering around, watching the scene unfold. Their eyes were full of contempt. Laura noticed the growing crowd and panicked. She no longer cared about the things she came for. She shoved the notebook into Michael's chest, pushed through the onlookers and ran off again, this time even faster than before. She didn't even bother to pick up the ledger she'd left behind. Michael stood frozen, staring after her retreating figure. Then he looked down at the notebook in his hand and back up at me. I stood silently at the doorway, my expression cold and detached. That was the final blow. He broke. He crumpled to the ground, covering his face with his hands, and began to cry. I didn't look at him again. I turned, walked into the house, and shut the door behind me. His tears no longer had any power over me. That evening, Commissar Wong sent word that the army had officially approved my divorce petition and ordered Michael to sign the papers immediately. Under pressure from his superiors, Michael finally signed. The day after I received the divorce certificate, I packed up our few belongings and took my son to leave the army compound. Commissar Wong helped coordinate with the commune and made sure I recovered everything Michael had given to Laura. 20 grain coupons, 12 feet of fabric coupons, and 19 yuan in cash. The army even added an extra 5 yuan as compensation, citing collective accountability for improper conduct. My older brother, Lin Chang, came all the way from the commune to fetch us. When he saw the divorce certificate in my hand, he finally sighed in relief. "Lillian," he said, gripping my shoulder, "you should have left him long ago. Don't worry. Now that I'm here, no one will ever dare bully you or your boy again." He helped load our luggage onto the donkey cart, lifted my son up, and walked beside us the whole way back to a small town near the commune. There on the main street, we rented a tiny 10-square-meter storefront. The rent was only 2 yuan a month, and the location wasn't bad. Plenty of people passed by. Using the money I'd recovered and the small savings I'd tucked away over the years, I went to the county to buy wholesale goods. Soap, toothpaste, sewing kits, candy, and little toys like spinning tops and glass marbles for the children. At the flea market, I found an old wooden display shelf, repainted it blue, and arranged the goods neatly. That's how Lillian's general store opened for business. On opening day, Mrs. Zhang came all the way from the army compound to see me carrying a freshly bound bundle of handmade brooms. "Lillian," she said warmly, "these are from me. I hope your business prospers." Other shopkeepers from nearby came too. One brought a bottle of soy sauce, another a bag of salt. They all smiled and promised to stop by often. My son sat on a little stool behind the counter, doodling with the new pencil I'd bought him. Whenever customers came in, he would chime in with his soft, childish voice, "Welcome," making everyone laugh. Some even bought extra things just because they found him so adorable. Day by day, life began to settle into a steady rhythm. The shop stayed busy from morning till evening, never quiet for long. Whenever my brother Lin Chong had free time, he came to help watch the store and even introduced me to wholesalers in the county so I could buy stock at cheaper prices. I saved every yuan I earned carefully, planning to one day buy the shop outright and when I had enough to send my son to a good school. One afternoon, I was weighing out some candy for a customer when a familiar voice came from the doorway. "Give me a bar of soap." I looked up and froze. Standing there in his worn soldier's uniform, his hair unkempt, and his face weathered with fatigue was Michael Carter. He looked thinner, older, and far more defeated than the last time I'd seen him. I didn't say a word. He picked up a bar of soap from the shelf, set it on the counter, and I told him the price, 5 cents. Michael pulled a 5-cent coin from his pocket and placed it on the counter, but he didn't leave. He stood there for a long time, staring at me before finally speaking in a low voice. "Lillian, are you doing all right? How's the boy?" "He's doing just fine," I said flatly. "You don't need to worry about us." I dropped the coin into the cash box and turned away, pretending to tidy the shelves so I wouldn't have to look at him. "Take your soap. I won't see you out." He still didn't move. His voice trembled slightly as he said, "I know everything that happened before was my fault. I regret it truly. Can't you give me another chance? I promise I'll treat you and the boy well from now on." I stopped what I was doing and turned to face him. My voice was calm, my expression unreadable. "Michael Carter, we're divorced. Whether I'm doing well or not has nothing to do with you anymore. If you feel regret now, maybe you should have thought about that sooner. I suggest you focus on your service in the army and stop wasting time on things that are already over." Just then, Lin Chong walked in from outside. The moment he saw Michael, his face darkened. "What are you doing here? You're not welcome. Leave." Michael's eyes flickered uneasily. He picked up the bar of soap, said nothing more, and turned to walk out. His back was slightly hunched, his steps hurried and small. Lin watched him go, frowning. "If he comes again," he said firmly, "don't talk to him. You've got me now." I nodded, warmth rising quietly in my chest. In this life I had my family support and my own strength. I was no longer the woman who let herself be trampled on. Half a year passed in the blink of an eye. My general store grew busier by the day. Not only had I paid off all my debts, but I'd saved enough money to buy the shop outright. I built a small room in the back where my son and I could live comfortably. He had also started attending the town school. Every afternoon after class, he would come to the shop to help out, his grades always among the best in his class. One evening after closing up, he rested his head against my chest and asked softly, Mom, our life now, it's much better than before, isn't it? I stroked his hair and smiled. Yes, sweetheart. It's much better now, and it'll only get better from here. Moonlight spilled through the window, lighting up the neat shelves of the little shop and casting a gentle glow over us. I knew deep in my heart that I had finally broken free from the shadows of the past. By relying on my own hands, I had built a new life for us. A life that belonged only to me and my child. All the pain, all the humiliation and heartbreak from before had turned into distant memories. What lay ahead of us now was a future full of light and hope.